down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
All right. Yes, Savvy investors, we're back. I got the big CEO in the mix, Shanae April Vankallenberg, my wife. The reason why I wake up and get it done each and every day. If you listened to the last episode and you made it this far, that means something was good somewhere. Hopefully you've learned something. But we got some powerful information today. We ended the last episode on communication. Communication is everything. If you want to raise money, you got to communicate your desire, your business plan, your return on investment. You got to communicate to the bank. If you want to go on a date, you got to communicate your interest in the lady. So you guys already know that enough. But I think this would be a really good subject to talk about, where the man, that's me, and the woman, that's her, men tend to usually have the grand vision. Like, I see we're going to own X amount of properties because we want an X amount of lifestyle. And so this is an interesting story, reality that happened to Shanae and I, where we got mixed up in Dave Ramsey. You know, church that we were going to at the time, to Dave Ramsey, and we're all in Dave Ramsey. You were just getting out of debt.
Right.
And your debt is my debt, but your student debt. And we were, really trying to focus on growing our assets. In that case is real estate.
That's right.
Rental properties. And so we were hitting hard, but I think I went to the Dave Ramsey. I read all his books.
Yeah, you had already done the course before.
And
then so it was new to me, but then you've revamped. You just juiced
we went again. We went again. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I did because I was $30,000 in debt before I met you.
Yeah.
And which was a horrible thing. And then I met you. I was actually kind of debt free when I met you. And I was so anti-debt when I met you.
Yes, you were.
And
that's why you were like, when we got married, you were like, you will not bring this student loan debt into me. I was like, what?
Yeah, I can't. I could tell it.
Oh, it was intense, but I was like, okay.
Okay. Yeah, all your whole paycheck goes for your debt.
I was like,
and only 3/4 of your paycheck went to your debt. You had some of your money for yourself.
That's right.
Which was still frustrating, but it's okay. But here's the most frustrating thing that ever happened. Not ever happened, but it was a frustrating thing. So I did the Dave Ramsey thing, and it's so different now because we have to bring up that question that guy said about the $3 million. Okay, so we got to bring that up.
Oh yeah.
So,
okay. Gotcha.
But I got on fire with the snowball effect. You can read that in Financial Peace, and where I wanted to get our residents debt free. I wanted to take my shoes off and stand in the grass, as Dave Ramsey would say, debt free.
That's right.
And we were working very diligent. We cut a lot of corners. We didn't spend any money. And I can talk about it later, but we were debt free for 1 minute.
It's really
1 minute.
Literally a day.
It was a one day. So we lived in this neighborhood, and it wasn't in a good school district. I thought the school district was great. I've heard great things about the school district. And Shanae heard of a different school district. And I remember vividly, we need to move to this specific neighborhood. And I was like, wait a minute, hold up, pump the brakes, because I'm the husband, leading the pack. And this lady, female, friend, wife, partner, crime, whatever, says we need to move. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I was a little frustrated. I just worked my tail off for, I think, 3 years of complete sacrifice of murder.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I was selling things at the flea market,
Yeah.
to get to this point in my life, which I thought this was what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Mr. Dave Ramsey, be debt free.
Yeah.
And you pop off and say,
we gotta get out of here.
We gotta move.
Yeah. It's true. Okay, so my side of that, and how many of you guys can agree with this out there? I'm sure every female is gonna be nodding that everything is good when it's just you and your husband, until you find out you're bringing a little one into the world. And you're like, as soon as you have that test result back and you know that you're going to be having a little baby, that changes everything. Now all of a sudden it doesn't matter. It matters. What didn't matter back then, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to bring this kid up. Now all of a sudden where you live matters, because where you live here in Oklahoma or wherever else you is where you go to school. True. And so while I was on board with this financial plan and everything was great, my debt was paid off. I watched Stephen labor tirelessly. At that time, he had been doing events. He was in the bridal show and also with DJing and doing different events, and would go in and guys, it was just old school. I mean, it was boxes checked off. $100. I think it was broken down to $100. It was $500.
It was 120 something.
And so it was like every time, and I remember him driving and making
234.
Yeah, that's right.
234 $500 payments is what we owed on the house.
And so every time he would get 500, or chunks of that, he would mark them all off, run to the bank, and make a payment. And so it was such a big win when we finally we were debt free. I remember telling coworkers, I was like, I felt this huge sense of relief of like, wow, that was amazing. It can be done. It can be done. But then we were bringing in a little one. And when I realized where we were going to go to school and I started asking people questions, I was like, oh, no. We cannot go this way. So
this is the conflict between men and women. This is the conflict because
this is the conflict.
This is the conflict because as a man, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I'm doing everything what the effing everybody says you should do. Even Mr. Dave Ramsey. Oh, be that friend. Yeah. Your life is going to be grand.
Right.
And then you come and say, we need to move.
Change the plan. That's right.
Well, that was, and you didn't know this, but, folks, just a few minutes ago before we hit record, I said, I was angry. I was actually extremely frustrated to the degree I was pissed off and I was angry. First, I was like, and this is like how we got into marriage counseling. Okay, show me we're going to find a marriage counselor. But I was like, okay, where we need to move, and then how are we going to afford it? That was my second question. And how were we going to do this?
So, and I didn't know. Okay, so I honestly had no idea. I honestly said, because I was like, I have no idea. Okay, because I grew up in a small town, and all I knew was I married big city boy. And I just didn't know anything about raising a kid in a big city. And all I knew is the district we were in was not going to happen. Number one, everybody around us was retired folk. I mean, there was no kids being raised up on that block. And so the vision I had for my family was at least being around other kids that were, like I had. Like it was a neighborhood where they could play in. So I was like, well, I'll start driving around. Is how it all started. And I started looking up on the computer, probably like everybody else does, what schools are the best ones around that, like, what schools are even great schools. I had no idea. And so that's just where I started, was that list, and then started driving around trying to figure out where that is and what it was. And we ended up driving through and playing with our kids as they grew up. Like, I think our first one was very small at the time. Oh, no, both of them were there.
Well, we've been here for 6 years now.
Yeah, and so...
5 years. 5.
But I think our oldest was like 3, and then our second was just small, and it was starting to get closer to that time of like making a decision, and we ended up playing at this neighborhood area, and I was like, man, every time I would drive through this area, they just looked a lot like, because we didn't want to, at the house we were at, we didn't want to give up the lot of land that we had. Like it was a little under an acre, I think. And we were like, wow, we could do so much in this. There was just so many things that we could do. It didn't seem to be, bumped into a neighbor. I mean, there was just things we didn't want to give up. And so I didn't want to move into a jammed up apartment in, Norman or something to be in a Norman school. I didn't want to give those things up. So there's some things there that I knew that we were going to have to find.
Well, so the point is that sometimes I blindly trusted my spouse, and at this point in time, my spouse, my wife, trusted me with the majority of the big decisions. Funds, housing, careers.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now we were pursuing your career at that time, which was a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But I really did not want to trust you, but I wanted to please you. And I think that's what a lot of men want to do. They want to be in control and they want to please the wife. And I don't think that could happen. I think that you've got to truly sometimes, and I think, and to confess 5 years later is the best decision that we've made. And it wasn't my decision. And I was kicking and screaming, which you didn't know. I held it well.
You did hold it well. But and here's the thing I want to. There's a good lesson in that. Okay. The lesson isn't hide your real emotions. That's not the lesson. Like, I didn't know until just when we literally just started the podcast when he was like, I was so mad at you for that. I didn't know that. But what I do love about Steven is optimism. He runs on a higher degree of optimism that's like, well, let's just go see. That was where you came to. I mean, so I had no idea.
Yeah, but in the back of my mind, I was like, no.
It was like, no. You might have been like, hell no.
We can't afford that house.
Yeah, we can't do that.
But do you remember, a year and a half before that, we drove in that neighborhood, and it was impossible.
It was impossible.
The questions that went through my mind, how do people afford to live here?
Right.
No, that was the question.
Okay.
How do people afford to live here? Mm-hmm. And now we live there.
But here's the thing. What I loved about Steven was that he never made me feel bad about that. He never made me feel like you never made me feel ashamed or like, we can never live. That's impossible. You didn't live like, and that's what makes us a unique couple in that way. And that's like, well, let's just go find out. Let's just go see. And that's where it all began. And that's, if you really look at the root of where we have been in our life and where we've become, a lot of it is that right there. Like, let's just go find, can we do it? I don't know. Let's just try. Right. I don't know. Let's just go take, what's the worst thing that can happen? Always, what's nothing? We're still in the same place. Like, we still have a house. But if we just go find out what's
the scenarios that we were thinking about, private school.
Right. And so we were running all these numbers, and we were just getting into childcare at the time because I was working and we were paying for childcare, and that was expensive. And so we were learning on that scale of the power of influence over our kids and having to go to a job and leave them in the care of someone else. So all those were all big changes.
And then the day Kennedy was crying in a pool of her own
tears and snot, and we said, no, we can't do this anymore.
All right, so the gist is there's some times that you have to trust the other one on faith.
Right.
Now, there was a time where I brought a proposal to you about Brian Tracy. I love Brian Tracy. He's a motivational speaker. He's written 20-something plus books. I probably read all of them. Maybe a few I didn't. And I was like, Shanae, I was like, I really want to do this thing of hosting Brian Tracy. That was one of my dreams, is to promote Zig Ziglar or to do a business seminar. Yeah. And we had an opportunity. Brian Tracy was coming to Tulsa, and we had an opportunity to take over that seminar. And it took a great deal of money. And I came to you and I said, hey, we're going to be rich. We just need to sell
oh my gosh,
200 tickets at X amount of money, and we're going to make like $5,000.
Yes.
Do you remember that conversation?
Oh, I totally remember. I totally remember because you're so passionate and so excited. And you were like, I'm going to do this event. This is going to be great. This is going to be the most amazing thing. And you had somebody that you had to help you. And you had this game plan. And I was like, okay. And I just...
But I was like, we're going to have to cough up 5 Gs.
Right. Right.
And I think, I don't remember exactly where we got that 5,000, but it hurt us. To speed the story up, anyway, the show bombed miserably. Here's a couple of things that I've learned. First of all, I didn't do my due diligence and really. I thought I was arrogant, and I thought that, man, I'm a concert promoter. I can get 1,000 people to a concert. I can get dumb brides. No offense to you brides out there, just tease it. But I can get ladies to a bridal show. Oh man, I can get businessmen to a business seminar. I failed miserably because I learned that to get people to spend $100 or $200 on a ticket you got to give them a show. You've got, and I learned that the hard way. And you let me bow out gracefully. Mm-hmm. And so that was a situation, see, where you trusted me and it failed.
Yeah.
And I trusted you and it was successful.
Right. And so there's a good lesson in that right there. I mean, in that, like, I think people on the other end of this listening would say, well, how's losing $5,000 in an event any different than losing $5,000 in real estate? And I would say it's a huge difference. I would say it's a huge difference in that an event, we were betting on a person, and with the 5,000, the risk was in, can we get a person there to watch this event? Are they going to come? Are they not? Marketing to them and all this. I would say the 5,000 for the real estate is, you're buying an asset, and that you know that you're going to at some point lose money in the game to gain money. I mean, that's just a concept that I think I've read and understood a long time.
When I dissolved that, what I never talked to you about it.
Right.
I don't remember how I told you that. I was crying somewhere.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know. It was
because I was
bad.
So devastated.
Yeah.
Having
to pull the trigger was painful.
I fought so hard. I hired a bunch of people.
Yes.
I hired people I didn't even like.
Yes.
And I fought tooth and nail to make that event successful.
Yeah.
And I saw the writing on the wall. I had no traction.
Yeah.
I sold one ticket.
Yeah.
And I was devastated.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the conversation that I had with you. Do you remember?
I do. I remember that you told me that you were going to pull out of the event. And all I remember was, and wives out there, this was true. When you see your husband, you know the passion and excitement that went into whatever it was. And you see them and the pain and the struggle of them having to come out of what they just put all their hope, all their time, all their effort,
rich.
Like all this stuff. It doesn't matter. Maybe you saw it. Maybe you erred on the side of caution. Maybe you did. Maybe you thought and bought in the dream with them. It doesn't matter. The point was that I saw your pain, and I didn't want to put salt in the wound. All I knew was that, like, for you to have to walk away, it just needed to be put away, and we needed to move on, because it didn't say anything about who you were. It was a life lesson that was learned. There are no lessons learned without failing. And I knew that was going to be something that shaped you and changed you and probably helped you to grow.
Sure. I mean, to this day, it's still, I mean, I did a whole podcast on failing as feedback. You fail forward to success. I think that event, that $5,000 loss, and actually it was more. There was like $10,000 because of the marketing and so on. The $5,000 was just for the deposits and stuff. Mm-hmm. But what I did learn, sometimes you gotta let go, I guess, and say no and walk away and lose the chips. But I do appreciate you you've never brought that up since then, which is a remarkable thing. I think a lot of men and women struggle, when you lose. Everyone's partying
when you're winning and have money.
Like us today. Oh yeah, we have these units, and we just got back from a wonderful experience, a summer camp that wasn't cheap. Life is grand, but and then reality, it could change tomorrow, and that's the life of an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and I think I think it displays your level of character, because if you're willing to go down the hard roads together, then you're really going to grow together. I mean, growth happens through pain. It happens, and you can either say, I'm going to be a support system to my person that's going through this, or you're going to be the source of their pain, or you're going to buy into that, and they're going to not want to come to you. It's just like raising kids, right? They're not going to come to you and talk to you if every time they say something to you, you just beat them down. And so I'm like, man, I mean, like, put myself in those shoes. I know one day I'm going to be that passionate person. I'm going to be passionate about something, and I'm probably going to make mistakes. And so what would I want that person to be doing for me? And keep reminding them, remember that time at Drying Tracy,
I think one of the greatest things I've learned from you, which, I came to this marriage broken, but that, we used to conflict because we were against each other, or I was, you weren't. And when you told me that we're on the same team, death do us part, which of course that's just noise in society because of divorce and television.
Absolutely.
But the reality is, when you finally broke that wall inside of me that we are fighting on the same team.
We are on the same team.
So if I throw it in your face that the car's, scraped, which is what I want to do, but it doesn't solve the problem.
Right.
But two are better than one. We can work better together.
Absolutely. And we can do real estate better together. We can do events better together. We can raise children better together. We can save better. It doesn't matter what your strategy is, what you've bought into. You're not against. You're not like, hey, this is my side and this is your side. I mean, we are on the same team. And once we realized that, and we would even say the word same team, same team, same. I remember going on the house like same team, same team, same team.
Yeah. And when I was like getting in your face. Yeah.
And it would just break that mold.
All right. Okay, that's awesome. And what you said is very powerful. I can see you have your own radio show in the works, Mrs. Savvy.
Okay.
No.
Right.
All right. Let me tell you about another experience that you've impacted my life. That really is a big struggle for real estate investors today, and that is health insurance. And what gave you, and what happens here, ladies and gentlemen, is that my wife worked at a hospital. We had wonderful insurance, and we were the typical United States of American couple where we can't quit our job because of health insurance. And I get it. And, it was wonderful when my wife worked at the hospital. We had really good insurance. We had a good job, but we were paying tremendous amount of taxes and care, kid care, and it wasn't really worth it. What drove you to learn the whole Obamacare system? You saw that I was not patient enough to dive into that. Like, I'm patient enough to master taxes.
Yeah.
Or funding, or these other maybe complicated subjects for others, but seems so easy for me. But when the word healthcare come around, I go numb. Yeah. What drove you, and then what finally drove you to say, hey, I can quit my job?
Well, a few things. First, I worked in an industry in healthcare where I would see cancer patients literally die, like, before my eyes. And so when you are in that environment daily, I was reminded how short my time was on earth and how short my time was with my kids and family all the time. And so when the opportunity presented itself finally that, hey, your kids are getting older, you're going to school, you really need to spend more time with them. And Stephen gave me the green light. Yeah, that's possible, but there's this big question mark called insurance, health insurance. How are we going to afford that? I just knew that if other people were doing it, if there were other entrepreneurs and stay-at-home moms that were making it work, there had to be a way. I'm like, there has to be a way. And I wasn't going to give up in the fact that the government was just going to, I didn't want to bow down, basically. I didn't want to take the easy way out and just go to my job and work 8 to 3 and have them tell me that I couldn't make it to Kennedy's basketball game because I couldn't take a day off. I just did not want to be strapped like that. And I was so determined to find a way that I was like, I just have to go figure it out. And so, I just researched online, about Obamacare, and it had just been approved. And so no one knew what it looked like. No one knew, what, all these laws were in the process of being passed, but this was going to be the year that they launched it. And so, to be able to talk to Sally Joe and say, hey, Sally Joe, what's up? That just didn't exist. We were all in the same boat together, right? So I just said, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Well, weren't you scared, though? I mean, especially seeing people with cancer and then seeing a volatile income stream from your husband.
Up and
down. one minute, people pay their rent. 1 minute we're rebuilding a home because some crackhead decided to create another wall.
Yeah, I mean, this is the point. And you can make fun of me and tease me all you want about God and everything, and tease me about, but that He is the source. Because I'm like, if something's going to happen to my kids, it's going to happen with health insurance or without. Period. So, and He's going to give me the way out. Like, it's the solution. That's it. That's the point right there. That's the end of the story. I mean, you can't go on every day and say, because I have this ticket of health insurance, everything is solved, because it's not. And so I'm like, I just knew that I couldn't get my time back. And so
what you're saying is that it was just a faith issue.
Yeah, it was.
You
faith.
just took a
to
faith.
Me, I took a leap of faith, and I said, I'm going to trust God. I'm going to trust Him with my kids. I'm going to trust Him with our finances, and we're going to try this Obama thing. And if it doesn't work, then we're just going to have to find a way to pay for it, or we're going to have to pay a really high deductible, or we're going to have to do something like that. And,
right.
And, that was going to be really riskful, but we were going to have to do it anyway.
And on my mind, money solves all problems. And so, on my mind, I was like, well, we'll just have to get another couple more cribs, or we have to get another job.
Yes, that was
or
your answer. Your answer was a practical. Your answer was more like, okay, well, if I do X, Y, Z, and we can save. And I remember legitimately having this conversation, and you were like, if I just make sure that we have this amount in savings, that means if something really bad happens, we knew that we could pay a bill to the emergency room. We knew we could pay because we had some set aside.
Right.
And so we kept saying, worst case scenario, Max breaks his arm jumping off something, which was pretty, which was pretty common, that we would be able to say. And I knew, working in the healthcare industry, that they would take some money. I knew that they would say, they just want the bill to be paid. It's like anybody, just as a landlord, pay something.
Right.
I mean, come to the table with something, and we'll be thankful for that, and we'll put you on a plan. So I knew that there was more to it than just what I had grown up with. This is it. You have health insurance, go to your job, go to work, come back home.
Well, that's what I thought that you were coming from. That's why I was this is the great thing about, the man is the leader. He leads the home. He provides usually. And then all of a sudden you took over this whole arena, and it was a great decision on faith.
Right.
Because I believed in you, even though you were having tons of problems with Obamacare.
Right.
Setting it up.
Absolutely.
The confusion.
Still have problems
and
today.
Then 3 years later.
Right.
We made it through.
Yeah.
And, now we're going through a new dimension.
Yes.
And maybe Obamacare may not be in existence.
Yeah.
But I guess the grand point is that something should not derail you what your dreams are.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
of health insurance.
Right. Or because of what the government is telling you should or shouldn't do. I mean,
or your job.
Or my job. I loved being a radiation therapist. I loved treating those patients. I would go back to that job in a heartbeat. I loved that job, because not for the money, not for the security, but for what I was doing, fulfilling a passion there. That was amazing. But for that moment in time, I was never going to get that time back with my kids. I knew I could always go back to therapy if I ever wanted to down the road. And it was going to be a field that was never changing. But to just lie to myself and say, you can't do this because of money, or because of health insurance, or because of dental insurance, or these lies that we're told, was just, I would look back and be regretful. I would look back at the end and want that time back, and it would be over.
So then the drive that made you spearhead that was that you didn't want the naysayers saying that it can't be done, and you knew that it could be done because you've seen other people do it.
Yes, I remember you having conversations with extremely wealthy people, and I remember you saying, hey, they pay for health, and you would kind of ask them those questions here and there, and the wife would, she's a stay-at-home mom, and he, and they pay for health insurance, and this is who they have it. And they were people from out of state, people that you ran businesses, bridal shows. I mean, they were doing it. So I'm like, if they can do it, we can do it. I'm like, there's something we're missing.
Well, how about back to the security card for a lady? That's the number one security card for women in general. Not only a roof over their head, but health insurance.
Yeah.
How'd you overcome that fear? Just the faith issues.
Yeah,
believe me, I'm not like anti-God here.
I know. I know you're not. I know you're playing devil's advocate here, and I know you have just as much faith as I do. But literally, I am out of control. Like, I have no control with my kids. Like, I have no control if they're going to get sick. Like, we got hit hard by the flu this year, and wiped out everyone in our house for at least a week and a half or whatever. And and I just don't. I'm not going to operate out of fear. I'm not going to operate out of fear of saying, well, I'm afraid what's going to happen if I step out of this and do what I really want to do, which is to be with my kids. I don't want to live that way.
All right. Speaking of fear, How do you overcome fear?
With faith.
All right, I do it by education. You overcome fear. I'm not trying to punk you. I'm just saying.
But you are.
This is the Savvy Radio Show, girl. I mean, we're trying to get practical advice.
Oh my God.
You can't. The easy word can't be faith.
Yeah, but it is though. Like,
it can't be faith.
Straight up ask me, and I'm going to be honest with you.
Hey, this is not. We're not going to get any fans.
Hey, I'm telling you. Hey,
they're going to shut it off.
Hey,
go to the bathroom. It's faith. I mean, come on.
I'm sorry. That's just how it rolls.
I'm not anti-faith here, buddy. I had to throw out the buddy on you.
I'm telling you, legitimately, you can't. You go listen to your boy E. Thomas. I mean, like, how do you fight that stuff? You have to take a step of faith. I don't care what your faith is. For me, I know it's big Jesus, but for someone else, their faith is in something way different, and they're taking a step of faith.
Okay. All right. So I agree with that.
So
okay,
back your train up.
Okay. All right. For the folks that not necessarily have faith today, what's another way? I would say educating. I think that the more you became educated and felt comfortable with Obamacare, we just moved very quickly. Yeah,
and I mean, it just became like it's a feedback issue. I mean, like your fear, if you look at fear, and everyone knows this, you have two, I love this concept. Fear is a concept in your mind. You have no idea what's going on the other side. It's really just a figment of your imagination. So is imagination and vision. Both are in your mind. Both are not real. Okay? Right. Both are an idea. Fear is going to keep you back. Fear is going to crush. Fear is going to keep you immobilized. Imagination is going to propel you. Okay? And it's going to move you forward. And so it's like knowing when you're in one of those, being held back, being restricted. And I'm like, anytime I'm feeling that, I know that is not what I was created to do. I know that there's something else that's keeping me from doing that, and it's probably something worth pursuing. Like, it's probably going to make me better, even if I fail, even if I do something horribly wrong. Like you said it before in a podcast, I'm sure you did. I'm going to get feedback. And then I'm going to make it a change, and then I'm going to move forward again, right? Well,
I think that was awesome, man. You just have to lead your own show. Maybe you should just be my guest without me here. But I think the one thing that you were saying that, and it was a great way to say it, is that it ultimately brings freedom. Because if we did not choose Obamacare,
right,
and understand the loopholes and the frustration and the hours and hours that you spent figuring it out, we would be riddled with fear. Well, we would be in fear.
Yeah. Here's the kicker. I used to work for this incredible company here in Oklahoma City, a phenomenal company. And I just recently caught up with one of my friends, and they told me that the company, may be closing its doors. And I'm like, when I found that out, and I thought, I saw myself. You know how you get those glimpses of yourself when you're like, what if I continued at that job? And you go over to that person and you're like, whoa, that job has not changed. And I thought I would be in this most horrifying position right now without a job, possibly. I could have, or
no insurance.
No insurance. Nothing. I would now I'm not on the proactive side. Now I'm the reactive side. Somebody else is telling me that they're not going to give me a job, and I have a family, and we have an income that we have now built a lifestyle around. Now we are operating out of fear. And in my job, or the profession I was in, they were limited jobs. It's not like you could go out and get this job at the next, accounting firm. It was not like that. And it's still not like that today. And so I would be competing with my colleagues who I love and my friends for these positions. All of
that
them,
are rare.
Yeah, that is extremely rare. And just, man, what a terrible,
I can't imagine.
An agonizing position to be in. And I just was baffled when she told me this, and I thought, I just was so thankful to take the risk.
For Savvy Landlord.
Yeah. To take the savvy
You're thankful
landlord.
for the Savvy Landlord.
No, I'm thankful for myself that I got us over here, and then I got us to go down to
the Savvy Landlord, bought the cribs to get the ball rolling,
Oh I can't wait till we talk about the apartment complex, because that's my other big...
Oh, is that one of your questions?
That's not my question.
Well, we covered the 3 that I needed to cover.
That's another.
I covered the 3 that I needed to cover. I was juiced up on the Maxwell Drive change out. We didn't get to the other question. We got to the health insurance and we got to Brian Tracy. How much time do we have on this deal? We went 34 minutes, so we should end right there. Okay. Would you, as you are a beautiful woman, would you have any last comments? I didn't mean to cut you off, you know.
It's okay. I'm used to it.
Hey, slow your roll.
I'm just teasing.
Mrs. Savvy.
No, I would say to any of the men or the women out there that are pursuing, especially real estate, because I know there's a lot of landlords and a lot of people in real estate that are listening to this, that don't let the 9-to-5 grind prevent you from taking those baby step risks. I mean, whatever it looks like. Don't let the lie that the government or that we live in today keep you from that. Like, write those goals down, write those plans out, and start taking those steps to figure out, can we do this? Like, what can we do? That's a great question to ask.
And I think ultimately that we kind of had a general plan.
We
weren't religious about or high C personality, because we're not that type.
We're not like that.
We're not detailed. Mm-hmm. But we did say, hey, if we did these things, we made this much money, and these things could create this.
Right.
And you knew it, I guess, in the back of your mind, because I was ready. I wanted you to quit, per se, your job.
Yeah.
But I knew that insurance was a big, obstacle for all ladies in general, especially for you in the medical world. And you saw
and you see it.
The end result of what happens when you don't have insurance, when people are being denied, especially on their deathbed, needing cancer, needing cancer treatment.
Absolutely.
And they were denied.
Yes. And that's
because they didn't have the proper insurance.
Absolutely. And that's the other side of it that you see, the ugly side of it that you watch, that you say, I'm paying for this, and I'm also going to a job every day just so I can have this, just so that when something does happen to my kid or myself or my family or my loved one, that you can say no.
And deny you.
And say, we're not going to do this. And I'm just like, you know what? Forget this.
Awesome.
Sorry, I didn't get to all amped
Well,
up.
I like y'all juicy woopsie. We got to get you back up on the show.
Hello.
All right, well, Sinead VanCauwenbergh, I truly appreciate your time. Did you enjoy your 2 podcasts?
I'm so happy.
No, I noticed. I'm looking at your sheet. We didn't cover any of your questions.
We didn't cover any of my questions.
And you want to clear the air.
Yeah, I'm trying to clear the air on all the. I mean, people out there wonder: does she really exist? Is she really?
Keeping you in the back.
You get to go out there and say, "Yeah, I talked all about marriage when I was at the land." I'm like, "Why? I should be there." I'm like, "I should be there."
You rearing some children.
They need to hear from the female.
I promise you, if you go listen to the Landlord Lunch Live episode last week, I know you're going to have 3 more pages that I see 2 pages here, and we'll get you back up on.
Here's the thing: if you enjoy listening to these with the wifey involved,
let us know.
You need to let the savvy landlord know.
That's me.
So that you can get some more women and more increased marriages out there, and help those people out there. Let them know.
Yeah, and hey, if you have a question for us, we'd be open to answering those questions.
Absolutely.
If you have a question, you can go to thesavvyradioshow.com, hit the record, and make sure your mic is turned on your computer, and ask the question verbally, or you can email. I'll give you my personal email address. It is allpromedia, ALLPROMEDIA, allpromedia@gmail.
Right.
The spam filter works wonderful there, so don't try to send me some juicy stuff, but send me the real questions and we'll answer them. Be as authentic as you want to. I'm gonna steer aware of steer clear of the faith questions.
Stop it.
No, because I'm down with the faith, but as humans, we everything is based on faith. You getting in your car, driving down the road has some sort of faith. You sitting on this chair has faith, and I'm not opposed to faith, but I think that we're all seeking faith and practical steps.
I don't think so. Because
no.
I just don't.
We're trying to end the podcast.
I know you're trying to end this, but I'm just saying that, like, if it wasn't like that, then more people would be taking more risks.
Oh, okay. So you're telling me that people don't take risks so they don't have faith.
Not just that. And like I said, I mean, my faith in this instance is totally different, but you have to jump.
I would agree because the analysis paralysis people, the people that
they don't.
That jam me up.
Yes.
These are the ones that email me and call me.
Calculated, and then they still have already sold themselves that it's not going to work. You cannot do that. Like, you have to take this ability of faith in yourself, faith in your ability, and ultimately, like, I lay it all down because I'm like, my faith in God drives me. So it's different, but that you gotta get up and let that control go. It's a lack. There's a control situation there, and you gotta go out and have faith.
When I think back and look at when I became a concert promoter, or when I traveled around the country, or I trusted the vehicle, it really is basically all faith. I had faith that I would do well. Now I had faith that Brian Tracy I would become a millionaire, but I didn't.
And you didn't.
But I'm glad that I have an ounce of faith. The Bible says a mustard seed of faith can move mountains.
Right.
So the faith for you to hit play on your radio, that a podcast would come through, you should use that same type of faith to pursue whatever endeavor you want to do.
Yeah, just ask yourself, why not? I mean, even if you make a mistake, the mistakes are feedback. I mean, they're feedback that you're growing. I don't know a person that has not. I mean, it was agonizing on Obamacare. I mean, everything I had to go through just to fill out the dang paperwork, and still to this day have to go through. But when I look at that, is it worth what I have to right now to be with my kids? Absolutely.
Sure. And we'll end with that. You have to ask yourself, party people, is it worth it? Sometimes you have to make sacrifices. Sometimes you have to sell your PS4. Sometimes you're going to have to downgrade from a BMW to a Toyota. Whatever.
To Kia.
I see the opposite side. I saw this Facebook post. It takes 6 months to build a Rolls Royce, and it takes 9 hours or 19 hours to build a Toyota. I mean, and I'm reading the unscripted book, and it's all boils down to, these dumb brands that are just extrapolating money, and you're working for this stuff. It goes nowhere. We have to look at utility. What are we trying to do? Are you really want freedom? Sit in front of watching CSI all night and not reading that real estate book, for sure, the Savvy Landlord book. But in not reading books, you're never gonna achieve your goals or dreams. You've got to make the sacrifices, and you got to have the faith in yourself and the people around you, and start moving towards that direction. Start cutting the crap and start living your life to the fullest. Right?
Yep.
Bang.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook, and always be buying assets.